welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awijan. Purple Mafia is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps. I thank each and every one of you once and always for downloading and listening to this show. Well, it's nice to be back with you once again today. I won't call it a great pleasure, other than it's, I really appreciate you listening to the show. And if you're still out there after maybe some of my ranting on X or whatever, God bless you and thank you for listening to the show. Yeah, well, the Minnesota Vikings played the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football, and we waited all day, and, well, it was a dud, an absolute dud. It was a close game at the half. It was a close game for a while, but as things progressed, it wasn't a close game. It was an absolute dud. Yeah, an absolute dud. That's just the best way to describe what took place here. It's, I don't know, not something you even want to talk about. 31-9, the Detroit Lions beat the Minnesota Vikings. The second half was absolutely all Detroit. In Ford Field, the the Detroit Lions will be the number one seed, the NFC North champions, and the road to the Super Bowl goes to Detroit, Michigan. The Minnesota Vikings have to go to Los Angeles. So you'll notice I'm kind of being a little close to the mic and trying to keep it down a bit because, of course, my wife is sleeping. This is, she works a very, very, very early schedule, and I would like to get segment number one out as soon as possible in order to just kind of have that fresh vibe, unfortunately, just to kind of have the feel at the end of the game. It's just, it kind of came in with a crappy feeling. Looked like there was a chance. Vikings defense made some big plays, but the Vikings offense didn't. Vikings offense did not make big plays. Now, there were a few chunk plays thrown in there, yes, but Darnold was missing and missing and missing. I mean, there were plays where Jefferson was wide open. Darnold just flat overthrew him. Other players were open. Darnold didn't see them. There were plays where it's just this just felt like a classic Minnesota Vikings playoff game, or back in the day, they'd get to the Super Bowl, and then it would just be like, like this. It was just the classic type of game, the big one, so to speak, where they just weren't up to the challenge. They just simply were not up to the bleeping challenge, and that's kind of what happened. Darnold looked great all season, this and that, but the good news is that I think we have an answer on a few things. Well, obviously, at the end, with the fact that this game ended up being the final game of the regular season, the entire playoff picture is now set. Yes, the Minnesota Vikings do have to go to SoFi, and I was like, oh no, not SoFi. I thought it was Tampa. Well, it was Tampa for a minute, but then as the day progressed, it wound up being the Los Angeles Rams. The Minnesota Vikings have to go there, which is not good news. I don't like the Vikings' chances in LA. We already lost to them this year. So they were the other team. They were the other Detroit. So extremely disappointing possibility here of possibly a 14-3 season, 14-2 at one point before coming into this game. Could be already over basically by Monday night next week. That's the other thing too. That's kind of annoying for some of us. That I might have to work around your work schedule to be able to watch the game. It's a Monday night game. Monday night, really? So that's the thing with this stupid super wild card weekend, which is just, I don't know, it's just a money grab by the NFL. That's all it really is. So yay, we get to be the Monday night game. How wonderful. So we get to wait forever just to see the Vikings again, just like we did already. Maybe we'll get another dud. Well, Sam Darnold will be the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings next week against the Los Angeles Rams. But I do think we have a pretty good answer as to where this team should go into next season. J.J. McCarthy and, Daniel Jones could be the backup or placeholder or whatever, depending on the J.J. McCarthy situation with the knee recovery. The best offensive play of the entire game was finally some decent blocking, which was very rare here. In any type of a screen the Vikings had, it was like the Viking receiver of some sorts, with two Detroit defenders just waiting for him. It's just like, seriously, that's what kind of game this was. But yeah, Darnold was missing and missing and missing. And of course, guys like TJ Hockenson were not making catches that he should be able to make. I thought he was terrible most of the season. It's unfortunate that we owe him quite a bit of money continuing. TJ Hockenson sucked. I thought he sucked in this game, honestly. Now, of course, again, Sam Darnold was missing on some throws as well. Like you notice, and even Jefferson dropped one that probably should have been caught. Obviously, couldn't stay in bounds in the back of the end zone as well. all that kind of stuff. 9 targets, only 3 catches. Hockenson, 8 targets, 2 catches for 9 freaking yards. I'm almost ready to curse my head off. Will Reichert was making his kicks for the most part, and then he missed one pretty nastily. I think it was a 48-yarder. It was a pretty obvious miss off to the right. That was sucky. Ryan Wright punted really well, I guess, over 51 yards on his 3 punts. How exciting. So we appreciate that, I guess. Well, in a lot of ways, he was one of the best players out there in some ways. Jonathan Ballard did get a sack in the game. There were a lot of pass deflections, and obviously the Vikings defense, I thought, played pretty effing good until obviously the offense just could not get anything done. They just couldn't get it done. Golden opportunities in the red zone, going for it on 4th down on multiple occasions. The Vikings would come up with absolutely nothing because Darnold would miss, or Darnold would hang on to the ball too long. He wouldn't see players down the field that were open on certain opportunities. I mean, the Vikings could have won this game very easily if the offense showed up to play. They could have. I mean, even with how crappy. Pardon my. I almost dropped it. I almost started swearing, but I suppose it's not that big of a bad line to say. Yeah, even with how crappy things went for the defense as the game progressed, and the Lions got up to 31 points. Honestly, keeping the Lions at 31 isn't all that bad. Like, if the offense actually showed up and did something, especially Sam Darnold actually showed up and did something rather than have like a noose around his neck the entire freaking game, the Vikings might have had a chance to win this one. But this just kind of felt like the quote-unquote big one, and your quarterback did not show up to play. He just wasn't good. Like, he showed up, yeah, but he had a noose around his neck the entire game. You could even see during the warm-ups, he looked like he was, like there were like some of the coaches or whatever were trying to calm him down. He looked like he was a bit uptight out there. Like, not angry, not anything, just seemed uptight, kind of like nervous, way too nervous going into the game. And this is what happened right here. So, interestingly, Sam Darnold could possibly be auditioning for his next team next week. It could be, that might be the next team he's going to go to, is the Los Angeles Rams. That's what some people think could be a possibility, where maybe he could work with Sean McVay going forward with how things happen. Because, I mean, to me, this absolutely has to be, like, this has to be tonight's performance in a lot of ways. And I know you think, some people might be thinking, oh, what kind of fan are you? And you're crazy. And how can you judge him off one game? Because this is the biggest game of his life. And if he shows up with this kind of a performance, the biggest game of his life, that tells you something. It does. It tells you something. J.J. McCarthy's biggest game of his life so far was the national championship game, and he was good. They got the job done. He wasn't like the only reason the Michigan Wolverines won the national championship, but they won. They won. He made the plays he needed to make. He was clutch. He's a winner. J.J. McCarthy's a winner. And I'd like to take my chances with J.J. McCarthy long-term for this future of this franchise. So this is good news that we're not going to get a Kirk Cousins type of situation again. Now, again, Darnold was amazing all season. He was the best quarterback in the NFL against the blitz. Tonight, he was absolutely garbage. Quarterback rating of 55.5. He looked like the New York Jets' Sam Darnold. I almost thought I put that as the logo for the episode, but it's probably going to be Jahmyr Gibbs running all over us, as he did something basically what. Why am I forgetting the guy's name now with the New Orleans Saints, who just ran all over us? What did he get, like 5 touchdowns on Christmas Day? It was like utterly ridiculous, like 4 rushing and like a receiving touchdown. It's absolutely nuts, like all-time record type of stuff. Jahmyr Gibbs had a receiving touchdown, obviously one of those screen plays where you make the catch and you go, and hopefully there's blocking in front of you. And then also ran the ball in 3 times, Tecmo Bowl style, just handoff up the middle, and away he went. And it felt like any type of opportunity the Vikings had to get anything going on the ground, it would always come back as a 2 yards, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Not that there was dust because it was an indoor game. The best play of the game offensively was Cam Akers. There was finally a good amount of blocking, and he just blew up the middle a bit and then took off. He looked like Jahmyr Gibbs for a minute there. Too bad he just could not quite get there, get to the end. What did he get to, like the 6-yard line? And if I remember correctly, obviously the Vikings did not get in the end zone. I'm blanking now. I think this one we got a field goal out of it, but it's just depressing. Like plays like this where you finally get somewhere, the big interception by, that might, you think puts you in an absolutely golden opportunity to score, just kind of a quick turn and score, touchdown, boom, momentum type of play. Ivan Pace Jr. with the interception deep in Detroit territory. Unfortunately, see, like another goofy thing is he stumbled. This kind of happened so many times in this game where a player would stumble. I think even Cam Akers kind of stumbled a bit, where maybe he could have gotten in the end zone. Ivan Pace Jr. stumbled, where maybe he could have had a pick six. Andrew Van Ginkel he was like maybe a slight bounce of the ball away from a pick six as well. He had it, but didn't catch it. He just simply didn't catch it. Absolutely devastating. One play after another. You could just go on, and some of these guys are going to be up all night probably thinking about that. Certain plays that maybe could have had things going in a better direction, and then as the game progressed, it just kind of snowballed in the wrong direction. It just slipped away, and then the bottom came out of the turf, into that fourth quarter. It just felt like a classic Minnesota big game loss. That's what it felt like, where you're still in it, you still have a chance, but then that big play never came. Like there'd be a big play, but there needs to be one more to complete it, and then it just never happened. That touchdown never happened. The Vikings never got in the end zone once in this entire game. Darnold had Jefferson wide open and he overthrew him. I mean, it looked like Blaine Gabbert. It was like a Blaine Gabbert type of throw. Where remember how he couldn't hit his mother, he couldn't throw a 3-yard pass to his mother in the backyard. It felt like in some of those games. I remember Blaine Gabbert had a guy wide open and overthrew him, and it was the final play of the game, and the Vikings beat like a terrible Jacksonville team. It was kind of funny and kind of sad at the same time. Wait a minute. Okay, sorry. I'm like seeing something a little distracted here for a split second here. The World Juniors, and I do believe they won the gold medal, right? Yep, they did. Whew. Had to go to OT, but they got it done, beating Finland. Awesome. Unfortunately, that was against 3 Minnesota Wild players on that Finnish team. Check out Brave the Wild if you have a chance. But at least the World Juniors, the United States won the gold, so that's one positive for today. We'll look at the other games as well in segment number 2. Of course, segment number 2 will be Tuesday. Of course, this show isn't getting released until Tuesday, but I'm recording segment 1 tonight here on Monday, Sunday night, not Tuesday. It's Monday morning is the show. Sunday night is the first segment, yes. I swear, every time Powell catches a punt, too, you feel like something stupid is going to happen. Every time the ball's punted in his direction, I'm just terrified he's going to fumble. I'm terrified every time Aaron Jones runs with the ball, he's going to fumble. I was even praying, please, Cam, don't fumble, when he had that big run and he was getting tackled. But thankfully that didn't happen. Goff, in a lot of ways, kept the Vikings in the game. Remember how the Vikings should have had... There were so many calls, too, that did not go the Vikings' way. There were a couple that kind of went our way, sort of, but they weren't really that bad. They weren't really as egregious as the ones that fell against the Vikings. And I know when you're on a certain team, certain calls feel a lot worse than others going the other direction. Occasionally, though, you get super lucky. Jared Goff kept the Vikings in the game with multiple interceptions, of course. The one where he heaved it from the end zone, and it was basically like a punt. It was like the Lions got the ball after the Vikings failed to score in the bleeping red zone, and then Jared Goff threw the ball right back to the Vikings, and we'd either get a field goal or end up just turning the ball over on downs. That's the amazing part about this football game. The Vikings didn't turn the ball over once. There wasn't a single fumble in this game, not a single interception, not one fumble, not one interception in this game, and and you still only managed 9 stinking points, because your quarterback was inept. Your quarterback was he had a noose around his neck, like I'm going to keep saying, and to me again, this absolutely is your answer. Two major answers tonight, or yeah, you could even say 3, I guess. Well, 2. The NFL playoff picture is all set, and your decision for next season, or your decision in the next month or 2 or whatever, on Sam Darnold versus J.J. McCarthy. That's your decision right there. I don't want to hear any more nonsense of you can't let him go. Yes, you can. You could franchise him, and if you want to take that risk. But I think it's okay. Thank you very much. Maybe it'd be nice to get some compensation and with some kind of move. But I don't know, some type of a trade if that can be worked out somehow. to get some kind of compensation back. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. I mean, it is what it is. Sam Darnold should not be the Minnesota Vikings quarterback long term. Should not. Absolutely should not. I mean, if you franchise him, so be it. But again, that'd be an extremely big cap hit going into next season, which could be a problem. You sign him for $40+ million a year for 5 to 8 years or something. Well, I think that's a mistake. I think that's a massive mistake. I think it's a Matt Castle kind of mistake, like the Kansas City Chiefs made years ago. Back when I actually kind of liked the Chiefs a little bit. I didn't mind them. I didn't hate them. I hate them now. I can't stand them. But yeah, I need to get over that though sometimes. Yes, I do. But yes, this was extremely disappointing. Not what we were waiting for. You're thinking maybe this is it, and maybe Sam Darnold really is the man of destiny for this team. Well, it still could happen. That's the funny part. It still could happen. He just might lead the Vikings on a playoff run, but I'm extremely doubtful that will happen. Extremely doubtful going forward. So that's kind of a hint where I'm heading into the second segment. Maybe after I sleep on it, I'll feel a little better. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I mean, even Will Reichert, I think he's fine, but obviously he's far from perfect. It is what it is. I don't think he's the next Blair Walsh. I mean, I knock on wood on that, but I do not think he's the next Blair Walsh. So, yes, and the guy who had the interception of the 50-yard pass basically down the field, it was basically like a huge punt by Jared Goff, but not meant to be one. It was Harrison Smith with his 37th career interception, so that's the conversation there. Byron Murphy Jr. had a couple of really nice hits in the game. Andrew Van Ginkel I thought was very solid. Blake Cashin was good, certainly not perfect. And on, what was it, the second Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown that kind of started changing the game in the wrong direction, Blake Cashin was held. Blake Cashin was absolutely freaking held. It was so obvious. I think it was the point that, when the game got to be 24-9, or was it 17-9? I can't remember which one now. Yeah, it was the second touchdown. It was not the third. It was not. It was the second touchdown, 17-9. Blake Cashin was absolutely held. Absolutely held. I mean, you could kind of feel the game was going south at that point. Late in that third quarter, you could just feel it. Like, we're down by 8. We still have a chance, I suppose. But then another awful sputter, crappy, mediocre, below average showing by Sam Darnold and the Vikings offense, again, who attempted 41 passes in this game because, you're down by a little bit the whole time, it felt like, and the running game simply wasn't working for the most part, except for one or two little plays here and there. It was garbage. And then, of course, Jahmyr Gibbs would get the ball again later to make it 24-9, and I literally posted on X at that point, it's over. I know it was early, but there was nothing telling me that the Minnesota Vikings were going to win this football game after that Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown. That was his third overall of the game. One of them was a receiving. So that was a pass. But there was a hold along the way. That's where it happened. It was on the pass. So it was the second touchdown. It wasn't the second rush, but it was the second overall touchdown by Jahmyr Gibbs. There was definitely a hold that was not called. Also, again, Jared Goff, there should have been a safety much, much, much earlier in the game on Jared Goff that was not called. It was intentional grounding, but of course Sam Darnold did get a intentional grounding called on him, and then next thing you know, we have to, it's like, what was it, like 2nd and 23 or something stupid like that. So just absolutely bleeping frustrating, beyond belief. Also, again, like there were, I believe, 2 sacks in this game that Sam Darnold took that he couldn't at least find a way to throw the ball away somehow. Like you'd give up 17 yard loss because you wouldn't get rid of the ball. It was just terrible. So he just was not up to the challenge. Not up to the challenge. And I don't want to commit, superstar quarterback money to a guy like that. To a guy that performs in the game of his life up to this date. The game of his life. And he shows up and plays like that. I'm sorry. That is not, I am not committing, $40-50 million a year to that. I'm not doing it. And if you want us to do that, I think maybe you should run a different team, that kind of thing. So just saying. Insane frustrations for me going forward. So, yes, it is the Los Angeles Rams. I do not feel hopeful at the moment. I don't know if that's going to change going forward. I mean, they're the other team that beat us, and they were a pain in the ass to play against, and that was in the same building. The Vikings almost never win in Detroit unless Matt Patricia's coaching. I mean, there have been some times the Vikings have swept Detroit, sure, but during most of Matthew Stafford's career, the Vikings did not beat the Detroit Lions. Matthew Stafford was a pain in the ass to play against, especially in Detroit, is what I'm trying to say. Stafford had some success, especially the first half of his career in Detroit. They were pretty good. Like the very beginning, not so much. But by about 2012-ish, they were pretty tough to beat. 2012, 2014, they were pretty good. Things went south, of course, later, but they're still a pain in the butt. And when they moved on from Caldwell and to Matt Patricia, that was a massive mistake. The Vikings swept Matt Patricia every year because he was a terrible coach and a bad decision. Campbell, everybody thought was a joke, when he was talking about hitting people's kneecaps and such. No, I don't think you have to worry about whatever that stupid girl's name was many years ago in ice skating. The two girls that didn't like each other, whatever. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I mean, no, nobody's going to kneecap anybody. It was just talking. I was like, give the guy a chance, and well, here he is. I mean, I respect Dan Campbell. I don't love him. He's a division rival. Jahmyr Gibbs pisses me off. But what are you going to do? Stop him. Stop him, for Pete's sake. And have an offense that can give your defense some damn rest, too. That would really help. You just knew when the offense kept screwing around and failing. And how demoralizing it was for a Vikings defense that puts you at the 5-6 yard line, after an interception, and you couldn't get anything out of it. It's just you guys suck. You guys absolutely suck. You pissed me off. You let us down. And yes, Reichert also had a ball kicked out of bounds, which is a penalty, which killed us as well. That's when the Lions started really marching down the field to kind of wrap the game up, basically. I don't know. This game was an absolute disaster, and that's all I got to say about that. Extremely disappointing, even though I've already given a pretty good earful already. I'm already 22 minutes in, so maybe it's about that time. I think I've said enough. I mean, you get the idea. Darnold was not up to the challenge, and J.J. McCarthy needs to be the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. One final take I could have on this one. I thought the Detroit defense, again, when you talk about how deflated they are with injuries, to a point they're probably not going to win the Super Bowl and blah, blah, blah. They should probably be the number 2 seed or number 5 seed, and they should be the team getting beat out because they have 9 million injuries. But that Detroit defense, again, the fact that the Vikings only managed 9 bleeping points against them and how bad Darnold looked against them, you couldn't exploit that at all, especially in the secondary. That's where most of the injuries have happened, including the pass rush from Aiden Hutchinson, being out for the year or whatever with a broken leg. He was helping out coaching in the game, interestingly enough, and was standing on his 2 feet, too, so that's good for him. Good for Aiden in that case. But that defense was clutching and grabbing, and they got away with murder in this game. I'm gonna say that. Yes, that doesn't mean that's not an excuse for Sam Darnold to be as terrible as he was, and T.J. Hockenson to be as sucky as he was. T.J. Hockenson sucked in this game. Call me a bad fan all you want. I don't care. He sucked. T.J. Hockenson absolutely was terrible in this game. Could not make a play. Could not get any separation for his life. And I do think Detroit was clutching and grabbing almost the whole game. There was a ton of frustrations, and this ref crew has the most made the most calls this season of pass interference, and they made basically one the whole game. It's utterly ridiculous. So insanely frustrating at the end of the day. The ref crew that has the most pass interferences basically will swallow their whistles in a game where clearly that defense was clutching and grabbing a hell of a lot. Again, still not an excuse. Sam Darnold should have exploited it, and he didn't. So Sam Darnold is a absolute big fat Christian Ponder memorial. He looked like Christian Ponder. He might as well have been Christian Ponder in this game. The whole happy feet himself, where he was always panicking and making mistakes. That's Christian Ponder right there. At least he didn't get pick sixes and stuff, but still, because that's what Ponder did. It was horrible stuff, but still, big, fat, juicy, smelly Christian Ponder Memorial Award to Sam Darnold for this episode. The lone wolf. So, but yes, they opened up with the disappointment award rather than the Fran Tarkington award for this episode. Not the easiest thing to give out, but it's got to go to Ivan Pace Jr. Ivan Pace Jr. put the Vikings in position to possibly turn the game around. He even had 10 total tackles in the game. He did not have a sack. I thought he did. I'm getting mixed up with someone else. Renard had a big sack in the game. He was visible. He was good. But it seemed like everybody was getting beat here and there. Ivan Pace Jr. led the team in tackles, put the Vikings in great position to do something, made some big plays out there. He is the Fran Tarkington Award winner for this episode. And Darnold obviously gets the Ponder. With that said, we'll take a quick break and come back for segment number 2 after I sleep on things, literally. And we are back here on Purple Mafia. Segment number 2, time to look around the league a bit. Obviously, this is going to be more of a playoff preview. I'm going to kind of casually look at the scores here. I'm not going to go in depth. And again, I'd like more feedback if maybe people are kind of semi-tired of the whole NFL roundup type of deal. Is it something you want on the show or something you don't? I know some people like it. I don't know. I don't get a whole lot of responses. And so it's a little frustrating when you only hear from maybe 1 or 2 people. Though the 1 or 2 people I do appreciate, but I know more than 1 or 2 people are listening. That's an absolute fact. Last night, listening to the event line on Score North, somebody made a statement on there that, I don't know, it pissed me off. They basically said, you're the only good, they told him, like, you're the only good thing out there for Vikings content. Everyone else pretty much sucks. Like, all the other podcasts pretty much suck. And it's like, really? What a jerk. And then they say, Mackey said, oh, there's a lot of good Viking content out there. And they said, not in my opinion. It's like, really, dude? You have to double down on it. So stuff like that kind of pissed me off. I know, and it always makes me wonder what people are thinking out there and kind of why I don't know why the things have stagnated over the years. It's frustrating just because it's not like a full-on radio level podcast doesn't mean the show sucks. So that's kind of annoying and frustrating to hear when you put your work into something and people talk stupid like that. I know not everybody out there's like that, but I know a lot of people are. And I don't know. All I have to say to that person is screw you. Seriously, screw you. I'm actually extending my middle finger too because I don't know. I mean, stuff like that is extremely, dare I call it, offensive? It is, honestly. It is offensive when you work your butt off and people like crap all over you. Anyhow, playoff implication type of games. Not that Cleveland is going to do anything, unfortunately. 35-10 Baltimore in the Brown Bowl. The Brown Bags finished 3-14. The Baltimore Ravens finished 12-5 and are in the postseason, of course. We'll look at the bracket, and again, I will like to move fairly quickly if I can. But now nothing's showing, and that's really frustrating. Why can't it show? Oh, come on, man. So, I guess we got to go back. Should show the whole week. Here we go. Okay, we'll just do this. Cincinnati over Pittsburgh. Well, they got to the 9-8 record, but unfortunately did not make the postseason because Denver did not lose. Because Kansas City sat everybody. Tampa Bay won over New Orleans, clinched the division. In their case, what did they finish? 10-7. Pittsburgh's at 10-7. Cincinnati did finish with a winning record, but as Joe Burrow said, they they put themselves in that position to begin with, so they have nobody to blame but themselves. Cincinnati should have been in a better position. They actually fired their defensive coordinator this morning. Continuing, because the defense had been a problem. They did pretty well against Pittsburgh, but unfortunately too little too late for the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll see how things go forward there. Sounds like they're keeping the coach if the coordinator was fired, but the coach is still there. So we'll see what happens. That'd be Zach Taylor, of course. Tampa Bay 10-7, NFC South Division champions. New Orleans Saints go from 2-0 to 5-12 on the season, and Dennis Allen was fired during the season. Continuing, Philadelphia beats New York in a classic East Coast matchup. The Giants finished 3-14. They will retain Brian Dable and the general manager as well. So both coach and GM will be retained for the New York Giants, interestingly enough. A lot of people thought that earlier in the season when Philadelphia got off to a rough start that you might have seen something like, you know, the coach getting let go or something during the course of the year or at the end of the year in Philadelphia. Instead, they finished 14-3, first in the NFC East, and no matter what, the Vikings will be on the road against Philadelphia should things turn out that way. With the 5th seed, unless there's an upset, more than likely if the Vikings get past the Rams, they'll be playing the Detroit Lions. And I'll make a tiny miniature comment about that real quick. Apparently in the post-game handshake between Mr. Dan Campbell and Kevin O'Connell, Dan Campbell basically told him, I'll see you in 2 weeks. So basically, it's kind of like a little nudge. Yeah, I know you're going to beat the Rams, and we'll see you again. Unfortunately, it'll be in Detroit again. But the old curse of you can't beat the same team 3 times in the same season, hopefully could rear its ugly head. But I'm not overly confident that's going to happen, unfortunately. Philadelphia, number 2 seed in the NFC. Buffalo loses to New England because they had nowhere else to go. Kansas City had already clinched number 1, and Buffalo was not going to drop out of where they were. They're basically where Philadelphia is in the AFC. 13-4 on the season. New England finishes 5-13, and they have fired their coach in one season. Fired 4-13. So we'll see where the Patriots go now. You could bring back Bill Belichick. No, he's with the North Carolina Tar Heels. Yeah, North Carolina Tar Heels. Anyhow, the Colts were in a hunt once upon a time, but not anymore. They finished 8-9 on the year, beat the Jaguars, who dropped to 4-13 on the season. We'll see what happens with them and their future. Joe Flacco maybe played his last game. He probably should. Taylor getting 177 yards. Again, don't want to get too much into the details here. Jacksonville's a team that with no idea what to say, and even the Colts, I don't know. I mean, a guy that's pushing 40, Joe Flacco, pardon me, is your starting quarterback. Anthony Richardson can't stay healthy, and he can't hit the broadside of a barn, but he sure is athletic. Yeah, anyhow, Houston Texans. They won the AFC South, 10-7 on the season, beating the former, it's the Houston Bowl, the Houston Oiler Bowl again, because they're in the same division. Wouldn't that be something? But I suppose the Wild and the Dallas Stars are in the same division, too. I don't even know what the Broncos are celebrating for, other than, yeah, they won the game, but they went up against Carson Wentz, though. Not exactly the number 2 overall pick he once was. Anyhow, Broncos, they're acting, okay, well, I'm glad you made the playoffs, I guess. Good luck with that. 3-14 Tennessee Titans. They let go of their coach earlier in the season. Continuing, and we'll look at the final standings for a couple seconds, too, just for the fun of it. Since we don't need to worry about the NFC North thing, this is just, again, well, the Bears win their final game. It took, it took how many games? 10, there was the 11th game since their last victory. After starting the season 4-2, the Bears finally get their 5th win of the year. It took the whole damn season. They beat the Packers in a game where the Packers, again, they just didn't win the football game, basically. 24-22, Green Bay Packers dropped to 11-6. Playing it safe in this game, Malik Willis was out there more than Jordan Love a bit. And Caleb Williams put up okay numbers, so on and so forth. Let's just keep going. I don't want to look at stats here. The Bits. The Rhinos. The Bits. Okay, sorry. Washington Commanders take a commanding, well, they get into the postseason anyway, 23-19. It's the final season for the current Dallas coach, and Mike Zimmer being the defensive coordinator. So I don't know what to say with that. 23-19. Of course, so we'll move on. Cowboys dropped to 7-10. The Washington Commanders finished 12-5. They had their ups and downs this year, but 12-5. Pretty gaudy record. Not bad. Not bad at all. Again, rookie quarterback who looks great. Hopefully our second-year quarterback looks great next year. Because I venture to believe that he will be the starting quarterback. Again, we hope and pray that his health, though. And it would have been nice if he could have gotten more reps this year, particularly practice, but also even starting some games. But I don't know. It is what it is. Darnold had a great season, but don't be fooled again. We don't be fooled again. No, don't be fooled again, okay? The Cunningham deal, yeah, but I mean, he was 36, but still, Favre was 40, hello. But yeah, I mean, it was a good season, but I think the magic quays may have ran out. Anyhow, the Atlanta Falcons, well, adios, bye-bye. They get beat by Carolina. Sure, good job, Atlanta. But I suppose it might have been too little too late anyway. 44-38. Did Kirk Cousins get any snaps? No, and why should he? Michael Penix Jr., 38 attempts, 312 yards, 2 touchdown passes. Bryce Young with 3 touchdown passes. Great job, and no interceptions No grape jelly stain where Penix did. Okay, so I just had to look at that. Curiosity, we're looking at, high draft picks and stuff. San Francisco, San Francisco this year, man. What happened? 6-11. San Francisco 49ers, they are, wow. Talk about the Super Bowl loss hangover or whatever. Super Bowl loss woes, whatever you want to call it. 6-11. Arizona Cardinals pound them 47-24. Oh, boy. Depressing, very depressing. Josh Dobbs started at quarterback for the 49ers. A couple of INTs, did not lose a... Nope, yes, of course he lost a fumble. Of course Josh Dobbs lost a fumble. Dobbs lost a fumble. Kyler Murray shows up to play in a game that doesn't matter. Sounds about right. 4 touchdown passes and 250 yards. Whatever. No interceptions. Thank you, Kyler. Could have used your help earlier in the year. I didn't draft you. The computer did. Okay, anyhow. Was it Aaron Rodgers' last game? New York Jets hosting the Miami Dolphins. Yeah, Arizona finished, what was it? I gotta go back. I think they finished 8-9, right? I'm gonna look at the standings anyway. Who cares? New York Jets finished 3rd place in the AFC East, which says a lot about the last place team. I believe that's the Patriots, and that's why the coach is gone, unfortunately. 5-12, New York Jets. I mean, there was just no life in New England this year. Dolphins dropped to 8-9, with the Jets win 32-20 over the Dolphins. Tyler Huntley started at quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, of course, was the starting quarterback, and maybe he was playing his last game. And I think they said, or he said something about, like, if it was a perfect situation, that he would be, perfect situation that he'd play next year. So we'll see. But odds are he's going to step away. Aaron Rodgers did eclipse 500 touchdown passes in his career, making him 4th all-time. I believe I have it right here. Yep, Tom Brady, 649. Drew Brees, 571. Peyton Manning, 539. Brett Favre, 508. So if Aaron Rodgers came back one more year, he would eclipse Brett Favre for the most touchdown passes. So I do believe, So that'd be as long as he stays healthy anyway. If he comes back, 503 touchdowns, as he did throw 4 yesterday. 499 going into the game. Crazy to think. Remember how Fran Tarkenton was passed by Dan Marino? It seems like yesterday, back in the late 90s. And now Fran Tarkenton's 13th. Russell Wilson has more touchdown passes than Fran Tarkenton. Eli Manning, Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger, Dan Marino. That's the next, we're going up, basically. Phillip Rivers threw 1 more touchdown pass than Dan Marino. Wow. Aaron Rodgers, yep. Brett Favre, Peyton Manning. I remember when Brett Favre passed Dan Marino. That was in the Metrodome in 2007, back when I was doing YouTube. Brett Favre passed Dan Marino at the time. That was when he got 421, basically. Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, and then Tom Brady, number 1 all time. So all those people were ahead of Fran Tarkenton, if you can believe it, who back in the 90s was still the all-time touchdown king. Carson Palmer, gosh, he's even not that far behind. Kirk Cousins is 18th all time. Kirk Cousins, you like that? 18th all time. Can you believe that? That's pretty wild when you think about it. Imagine if Kirk stayed healthy and all that good stuff. He'd already have 300 touchdown passes. Definitely a stat guy, but still pretty crazy to think Kirk Cousins is 18th all time in touchdown passes. It's kind of weird. Thought I would get into that because that's a pretty big piece of history. 500 touchdown passes. Not something you see every day, even though it's with the worthless Jets and all that. But they do have the best uniforms and especially the best helmets in the NFL, in my opinion. I'll keep saying that because that's what I believe. The Los Angeles Rams, next week's opponent, we'll talk. I should get off of, I'll save that. But they did lose to the Seattle Seahawks 30-25. So even with the loss, but I do believe that might have been what catapulted Tampa ahead. That's, I think, what happened. Tampa went up to number 3. Seattle finished 10-7 on the year, but they're on the road because they're, they didn't win their division because of the frickin' Rams. So, it didn't matter. That could have been a divisional type of game, but the Rams hung on to the tiebreaker. The Chargers beat the Raiders. Chargers are in the postseason. The Raiders are out. Chargers finished 11-6 in Jim Harbaugh's first year there. Raiders finished 4-13. Yuck City. Tampa Bay celebrating in the background here. Denver Broncos make the playoffs 38-0 over a Chiefs team that was just trying to stay away from getting injured. I could name... I don't. A lot of these players are kind of like, sure, that guy. You know him. And Carson Wentz still alive, 17 attempts, 98 yards. Bo Nix threw 4 touchdowns because they had to win the football game. So it was kind of like opposite situations here. So it was a perfect storm for the Denver Broncos to make the postseason, and they did, because the Chiefs were not interested. They wanted to just get out of there. It was the final preseason game, basically. It was the equivalent of that for the Chiefs, and the Broncos crushed them 10-7 to make the playoffs, despite finishing third place in the AFC West. Let's look at the standings very briefly, and then we'll look at the playoff bracket. AFC East: Buffalo 13-4, Miami 8-9, New York 5-12, New England 4-13. AFC North: Baltimore 12-5, Pittsburgh 10-7, Cincinnati 9-8, Cleveland 3-14. AFC South: Houston 10-7, Indianapolis 8-9, Jacksonville 4-12, Tennessee 3-14. AFC West, Kansas City 15-2. Yeah, boo. Okay, hope they get beat. Yeah, Chargers 11-6, Denver 10-7, Las Vegas Raiders 4-13. NFC: Philadelphia 14-3, Washington 12-5, Dallas 7-10, New York Giants, who will retain their coach and GM, 3-14. NFC North, I know, I hate it. 15-2, the best fifth seed wild card in the history of mankind, 14-3, Minnesota Vikings. Are you kidding me? They gotta do something about that. They really do. You know how they changed that in the NBA, where you don't have to win your division anymore to be like the number 2 or whatever seed, number 3 seed. You're not stuck like going on the road because you didn't win your damn division. Yeah, they need to change that, I think, because that's bullcrap. 14-3, come on. I wonder what our conference. Oh my, I think just looking at this, the one tiebreaker that Philly might have would be the division, because the conference records are equal. That's where it would be a possible tiebreaker for Philadelphia if they had a better conference record. We're both 9-3. Divisional record. See, their divisional record's 5-1. Maybe they look at that as the difference. Even our home and road records are exactly the same. That's ironic. It's weird. We both lost one home game this year. Anyhow, Packers 11-6, Bears 5-12. NFC South: Tampa Bay 10-7, Atlanta 8-9, Carolina 5-12, New Orleans 5-12. NFC West: next week's opponent, LA Rams 10-7, Seattle 10-7. Seattle actually missed the playoffs. Okay, my bad. Seattle actually missed the playoffs. 10-7, and they missed. Ouch. Arizona 8-9, and San Francisco, terrible season, 6-11. Very disappointing. I like San Francisco. Playoffs. What the heck? Show the bracket. Okay, I actually have to click on the bracket, not the other button. Here's your playoff bracket. Well, the AFC. Buffalo versus Denver. I should look at the actual schedule, too. Doggone it. Could have had that. Okay, yes, wild card, please. So, Saturday will be Saturday, Houston versus the Los Angeles Chargers, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. So I want to kind of have both of these up, maybe. This will make a little bit better. Would have been nice to have 2 screens. I need to do that. Need to make that investment if I ever actually have any money one of these days. Yes, okay, so I'll have to click between the 2, but that's okay. So, Kansas City, of course, has the first round bye. Otherwise, Buffalo versus Denver, 2 versus 7. Baltimore, 3 versus 6 versus Pittsburgh. Hosting them, of course. Houston's hosting the Los Angeles Chargers. So, the Saturday games, I believe they're both AFC, yeah. So, Los Angeles Chargers on 1/11, we can call it, 3:30 Saturday. And the apparently, yeah, so it's CBS for the Houston Chargers game. Pittsburgh and Baltimore, Pittsburgh, the Black and Blue Bowl, you could call it. That one's on Amazon, interestingly. So, okay, that is a 7 p.m. start on Saturday. So we'll start with the, I guess, chronologically here. I think the Chargers beat the Houston Texans. I don't like the way the Houston Texans have been playing. So Chargers, the 5th seed, wins in the AFC. Will the 5th seed win in the NFC? We'll see. We'll see. Baltimore's going to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers almost certainly, I think, after that. So Baltimore will advance after that. Clicking over. So Houston, the 5th seed, is probably going to have to go to Kansas City. And Baltimore will most likely go to Buffalo, because I do believe the Buffalo Bills are going to beat the Denver Broncos. So it'll be Buffalo versus the Baltimore Ravens. Wow, that's going to be epic. It's going to be a great game. Kansas City versus the Chargers. Go Chargers. I hope they kick their ass. Wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't that be awesome if the Chargers beat them? But Chiefs probably win that game. And I wouldn't be surprised if you might have a rematch of last year. There's a pretty good chance of that. But Buffalo probably goes to the AFC Championship game versus the frickin' Chiefs. And the Buffalo Bills are going to represent the AFC. Buffalo Bills beat the Chiefs. Buffalo Bills beat the Chiefs. I think they're a little bit more locked in than the Buffalo Bills are. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be the next team that tries to go for a three-peat and doesn't get it. And boy, do I pray to God they don't, because I do not want to hear that stupid GOAT talk. Patrick Mahomes has 3 Super Bowls. Tom Brady has 7. I'm sorry. No, he's not the GOAT. He's not the GOAT. Slow down. Slow down. If he is, so be it. But he ain't there yet, okay? I'm tired of this greatest of all time. He's not there yet. I still put Montana ahead of him. I think Mahomes is 3rd. I think it's Brady 1, Montana 2nd, Mahomes 3rd. And then 4th is probably I don't know, maybe Peyton Manning. It gets a little bit hairy or hazy after that. It could have been Aaron Rodgers at one point or even Brett Favre, but I don't know. All right, to the NFC, Detroit, of course, is the first round bye. And, of course, who's going to play the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl? Detroit has the first round bye. Otherwise, you got Philly, Green Bay. So let's look at some of the schedule as well. Washington, Tampa. Basically, all these other games are on Sunday. And then Minnesota, Los Angeles is on Mondays. So it's 3 games on Sunday. The nooner is the Buffalo Bills. That sounds perfect. Beautiful blue sky over there. Well, if it's a blue sky, but I frankly hope it is. A nice chilly blue sky in Buffalo, New York. Bills win. That's on Sunday, of course. Then the second game is the Green Bay Packers being hosted by the Philadelphia Eagles. I would be surprised if Green Bay wins that game, but I think it's going to be pretty close. I think Buffalo wins fairly convincingly over the Denver Broncos. I'm sure the Chargers game is going to be fairly close, but I think they'll win over Houston, like I was saying, in Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Baltimore wins by 10 points. Philadelphia, Green Bay. I think it's going to be pretty close. It'll be a tough one. It'll be a little on the higher scoring side, I think, with the 2 quarterbacks going at it. But I think Philadelphia's the better football team, not just because I dislike the Packers. Believe me, I'd pick the Packers if they were, the better team here, but they're not. Philadelphia wins the football game by 4. Philadelphia wins by only 4. It'll be pretty close. Washington versus the Buccaneers. That's going to be a good one, 7-15. So that's your NBC game. So the noon game with Buffalo, CBS. The second game. So the good part about all these games is they're all by themselves, of course. They're all on their own, which is great. They get 100% viewership if people are actually watching the game. Fox, of course, will be the Packers-Philadelphia game. NBC will be, again, that's a Sunday Night Football game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the Washington Commanders. Tampa Bay is a pretty good home team. I just like Washington here. I have a feeling they're going to overcome things here and get the job done at the end of the day. I think the Washington Commanders win. So Eagles and Washington, both of them from that division advance. Of course, Detroit's already advanced automatically. Minnesota versus the Rams. 7:15, ABC, Monday Night Football, the last Monday Night Football game of the year. Oh boy, am I nervous about this? Yes, the Vikings lost to the Rams this year. That doesn't mean the Vikings will lose again, but they lost this year to the Rams. So Stafford, 37-62 in yardage, 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Darnold, 4,319, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Only the yards changed, not the touchdowns or the interceptions. That's how meh a game it was last night. Aaron Jones wound up with 1,138 yards with only 5 touchdowns. Just not a great red zone running game for Minnesota all season. Kyron Williams wound up with a yard short of 1,300 with 14 touchdowns. So better red zone team, and I'm not too surprised about that, honestly. The receivers are deadly as bleep, but so are the Minnesota Vikings receivers. Justin Jefferson, with 1,533 yards, again, was clutched and grabbed and held about 50 times yesterday, and it was called once. Actually, and it wasn't even called. It was called on. I think somebody rammed into. It was like they rammed into Jordan Addison at the end of the day. But 10 touchdowns for Justin Jefferson, Jay Jets. Puka Nacua, who missed some time, 990 yards, 3 touchdowns, and of course the other guy again, the high-end tight end, missed a ton of games. The Rams had won a number of games in a row, as had the Vikings. Both teams lost their season finale. They lost their season finale, unfortunately, so that was a pain in the butt. Well, Vikings had a couple of interceptions, didn't we? We're number one in the league in interceptions. Rams are 12th with 13. Vikings had 24. Points scored, Vikings are 9th with 25.4. Rams 20th with 21.6. Total yards, Vikings 12th. The Rams are 16th. Passing yards per game, Vikings 7th. The Rams 11th. Rushing yards per game, this is all offensive side, 19th. And the Vikings are 19th. The Rams are 24th. Time of possession, Vikings 13th. And the Rams only 23rd, but occasionally they can have those quick strikes, those big-time plays from Matthew Stafford. Will it be his final game as the Rams quarterback? And will it be Darnold possibly auditioning to be the next quarterback of the Los Angeles Rams? As that's a possibility with Sean McVay as the head coach. A little spicy V8. Tasty. Tasty. I don't always like spicy stuff, but occasionally I do. Adding a little spice to this podcast today, right? Anyhow, points per game, Vikings 5th in the league. This is defensively. Points against per game, Vikings 5th. And again, keeping the Lions to 31, despite that, thing that kind of the floodgates opening a bit in that fourth quarter, was actually pretty good. The defense showed up for the most part, except against that stupid blankety-blank Jahmyr Gibbs, but that's just how it is. We always get our butts handed to us, just like Kamara last, like years ago on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas! Yeah, whatever. What was it, like 5 touchdowns against us? I think it was, I don't even want to remember. Yeah, it was Jared Mayo. I thought his name was Mayo, right? Yeah, because it's harder to keep up with the Patriots. They're not as, they certainly weren't noticed this year. One season and he is out. I'm sorry, Jared. He was a former linebacker of the Patriots in the glory days, and unfortunately, those glory days feel very far away right now. They look more like the early days of Drew Bledsoe. Yeah, there's a reason why Bledsoe was taken number 1 overall, because the Patriots were terrible back then in the early 90s. Total yards. This is against, Vikings 16th. The Rams are 26th. They do give up a decent amount of yards, 353. Passing yards against, the Vikings are 28th. And, well, again, that's teams, playing from behind. You got to factor that in. Rams 20th. Rushing yards against, again, this is teams playing from behind, so they're throwing the ball more, right? Vikings have the second best run defense again in the league. They really don't, though. It's circumstantial, some of this. I do not believe that Mike Vrabel, he was helping in Cleveland, wasn't he? Interesting. Yeah, he was. I forgot about that. But again, the brown bags were so bad this year. Anyhow, sorry, I'm very distracted here. Yeah, that whole second and rushing yards, we have the second best rush defense in the league. We really don't, though. Again, it's because teams were playing from behind, so they're throwing the ball more. You gotta play the clock. You don't want to run the ball when you're behind. I mean, you can, but not that much. Vikings 5th in the league in sacks. Good pass rush this year. 48 sacks on the season. 5th in the league. Rams 20th with 38. Number 1 in the league interceptions for the Minnesota Vikings, 24-13. And they did their job yesterday for the most part. Again, Jahmyr Gibbs ran all over us late and early, but not the whole game. I was very satisfied seeing him getting absolutely smushed. I believe that was by Van Ginkel. That was, boy, that felt good. It's like, you know what? Screw you, Jahmyr Gibbs. You've been running all over us every time you play us. So it was very satisfying. It's like you're playing a hockey game or something, and this guy keeps scoring, and you just absolutely obliterate him. It feels like $1 million. Again, on a video game, not necessarily wanting people to get hurt or anything. It's a tough matchup, though. To be fair, this is a very tough matchup. The history between these teams is, it goes all the way back to the beginning for Minnesota because the Rams are pretty old. Why is this showing the Lions? Oh, I think I brought up, okay, I never actually closed that one. I had 2 of them up. Apologize. Okay, so the Minnesota Vikings against the Rams. The history of the Vikings lead the all-time series 27-19-2. So 2 ties back like in the 1800s or something. I don't know. The Vikings did win their first ever game against the LA Rams way back in 63. So maybe the Rams were slightly after us. I don't know. But yeah, I think they started in the 60s just like we did. And then the Vikings had won 4 in a row. Then we lost 3 in a row in the late 60s. Vikings pretty much owned the Rams for most of the 70s, but not the whole time, including some NFC title game or two mixed in. Playoff history versus the Rams, there's some good games and some not so good games. I'm not getting all the information here, which is irritating because the screen is like turning white and has a bunch of ads on it and it's not working real well. See if I can try to refresh it or not. It's just sitting there. Come on, man. 1974, 99% sure this is the NFC title game. Yeah, it was. We played the Rams twice in the NFC title game. Yep. Oh, in the NFL championship game, 1969. Yep, won by only 3 points. These games are all pretty close. And it was like, oh, they have to come to Minnesota and in the cold. They're not used to it, and the Vikings would always overcome. It'd be a low-scoring game, 14-10. So Vikings playoff history against the Rams was pretty rich for a while. 76, beating the Rams 24-13 to go to our last Super Bowl. And then I believe these were wild card games. 77, Vikings beat the Rams again, so that's 4-0. And in 78, it was a reality check. Tarkington, this was his last season. In 78, it was on New Year's Eve. The Rams destroy the Vikings in the wild card, 34-10. 34-10, the Vikings, the Rams destroyed the Vikings. So it was our first loss after being 4-0 versus the Rams in the postseason. The Vikings dropped to the Vikings dropped to 4-1 at that stage. Then you had another game later on in 1988. Vikings win a wild card game there. Because I think, so yeah, those were technically divisional rounds because back then the wild card didn't even exist back in the late 70s. But by 1988, the Vikings beat the Rams. And then got to play the Vikings beat the Rams, so go up to 5-1, 28-17. Again, this is playoff history with the Vikings and Rams, all in LA at the time. Before they go to St. Louis. This is a wild card game. The Vikings beat the Rams 28-17 and then got obliterated by the 49ers the next round. Vikings would get killed by the 49ers 2 years in a row in the playoffs. 88 and 89. Niners would win both Super Bowls. And then the Vikings again in 2000. It was technically 2000, but it was the 99 season we all remember. The Vikings got past the Cowboys again. This is after Cunningham, and the Vikings started off terribly, 2-4. Jeff George takes over. Vikings get red hot, and unfortunately lose a couple of frustrating games. So I believe was it Kansas City and Tampa, the Yo Murphy game, the infamous Yo Murphy game, and that cost the Vikings a chance to win the division. And then we ended up going to St. Louis, who was the number 1 seed and the best offense of all time, after beating the Vikings by a little bit from the year before in 98. Vikings actually led at halftime in this game. It was pretty high scoring. It was epic. But then the Rams just went absolutely berserk. Obviously, again, a kickoff return on the opening kickoff in the second half for a touchdown, and it was all downhill from there. Rams ended up winning 49-37. The Vikings would score late to make the score a little bit prettier. That's why the Vikings only lost by 12 in the game. It felt like we were getting blown out of the water. But that is the last time the Vikings played the Rams. And then they were in St. Louis, of course. They went on to win their one and only Super Bowl as the St. Louis Rams before they eventually got a Super Bowl title in L.A. for the first time ever after they moved back in 2016 or 2016. They won their championship in 21. They won the championship in 21. Remember, they beat Tampa and all them and San Francisco. Went on to win the whole enchilada, the St. Louis Rams. Much to my chagrin, because I really wanted either 49ers or Bengals to win, but of course they didn't. And of course, ever since then, 22 and 23, the yucky and frustrating and awful Chiefs have won back-to-back Super Bowls, trying to win back-to-back, or back-to-back-to-back. The Vikings have lost 3 games in a row to the Los Angeles Rams. Not going back to, the first one was that epic Kirk Cousins game, a Monday night game. Fun to watch, but the Vikings offense just wasn't good enough when Jared Goff and the Rams were flying high that year, and everybody was excited about them after the Vikings stymied that Rams offense the year before, 24-7 in the U.S. Bank Stadium, en route to our 13-3 year and NFC title game appearance. Not win, but appearance. Let me tell you. Appearance. Since then, the Vikings, they had that epic game with the Rams. And then in 21, the Rams beat the Vikings by a tiniest margin to help kind of knock us out of any playoff contention in late 2021 en route to their first Super Bowl championship as the Los Angeles Rams. which they did, 30-23. And then earlier this year, a frustrating battle, 30-20. The Rams overcame the Minnesota Vikings in that one. And this thing is frozen or something. I don't know what it's doing, but it's completely non-responsive, and it pisses me off. I just closed the whole damn thing. Let me dig back into the schedule if humanly possible. Otherwise, again, it's not been a good matchup for Minnesota this season, unfortunately. So it kind of is what it is at the end of the day when it comes to the Vikings and the Rams. I don't like our chances so much going into SoFi. I know I've dragged this out a long time, but it is what it is. It's a playoff game. It's exciting in terms of, it's a playoff game. It's a golden opportunity. Sam Darnold, is he going to prove us all wrong? Were we overreacting to the loss to the Detroit Lions and his hapless, hopeless, garbage performance? It was like basically the equivalent of a regular season Super Bowl in a lot of ways, if that makes any sense. Maybe it really doesn't, but it's going to have to at some point. That 30-20 loss was on October 24th. Vikings did manage 20 points. How did Darnold perform in that one? Yeah, pretty good. Quarterback rating of 128.8. That's pretty good. Wow. 18 of 25. Only attempted 25 passes, 240 yards. Aaron Jones, the run defense was pretty good in the game. Aaron Jones only 58 yards. But Justin Jefferson, 115 yards and 8 catches. Josh Oliver, who was pretty good yesterday, just couldn't get past some of the tackling of that Detroit defense. Trent Sherfield had a single catch for 10 yards. That was a touchdown. Puka Nacua, I remember he was really frustrating to deal with. Both of Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp came back the same week, and it was against us, and they managed almost 160 yards combined on 12 catches between the two of them. Demarcus Robinson got in the end zone twice, and Kyren Williams also received a touchdown and ran for 97 yards against the Vikings. Again, I don't think the Vikings have the best run defense. I don't. I don't. It shows that they don't. It's just, again, the teams are playing from behind. I've said that 50 times. Sorry if I sound like I'm repeating myself, but to me it's true. One major alarming statistic here that will mean an absolute loss for the Vikings in the postseason, if this repeats: no sacks on Matthew Stafford. None. Zip. And Darnold was sacked 3 times. Jared Verse 1.5, Brian Young once, and Michael Hecht got a half sack with the other guy that had 1.5. Anyhow, both of the receivers came back. The Rams were 2-4 at the time. Huge win for the LA Rams there. And ever since then, the Rams had been pretty solid. What did they finish? 7-3 after that? So, and if you count that game, 8-3. So 8-3 since starting off the season. 4-2. 10 wins and 7 losses for the Los Angeles Rams. Certainly not a perfect team, but dangerous, extremely dangerous. They have a pretty good pass rush even without Aaron Donald. There still is a pass rush there. Stafford can absolutely destroy you. And it's funny, too, how early in the year Stafford was doing hardly anything because he had nobody to really throw the ball to. And then funny, he plays against the Vikings. Throws 4 touchdowns. He did have an interception in the game because the Vikings lead the league in interceptions. But 4 touchdown passes for the Tampa, Florida native Matthew Stafford. Maybe he can go to Tampa. No, he can't. They got Baker Mayfield and they're happy with him. Just bull crapping. The interception was by Byron Murphy Jr. That's why he's in the Pro Bowl. Congratulations, Byron Murphy Jr. getting to the Pro Bowl, of course. Well deserved. Along with some others like Kinkle and Grenard. Unfortunately, yeah. See, what's his name was out too, Cashman, and we can no longer say that Cashman, or the Vikings are undefeated with Blake Cashman out there, because that's for damn sure they weren't. Ivan Pace Jr. had 13 tackles in the game, no sacks though. But I think I remember giving him the award. It was either him or Darnold that got it. Yeah, so we'll see. I think I did give it to Pace. He was outstanding in that game, so hopefully he can do that again. We'll see what happens. Interesting. So we'll see how things go at the end of the day. Sorry, I'm kind of... Ooh, so he's out. Yep, Tyreek Hill is leaving the Dolphins. I'm out, bro. At the end of the day, I have to do what's best for my career. Yeah, because they're not winning. So it's too bad. I like the Dolphins. So, but it is what it is. If he's out, bro, then so be it. Good, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord splits you if you're out, bro. Yep, I mean, it is what it is. Well, anyhow, as for the Vikings and Rams, I'm delaying the inevitable way too long here, and I'm probably annoying you. I can't pick the Vikings. I can't pick the Vikings in SoFi against the Rams. I can't. Darnold scares me right now. And, of course, obviously Stafford scares me. He's had amazing games against the Vikings with Detroit. And, of course, this game against the Vikings with the Rams. He's 2-0 with the Rams against the Vikings, by the way. They've been fairly close games. This one earlier this year was a pain in the butt. I want Sam Darnold to prove me wrong, and if anything, I hope he does. Go out, Sam Darnold, and prove me wrong. Play great. But I'm still absolutely mindset. My mind is absolutely set on J.J. McCarthy being the future for this franchise. It is. One way or another, figure out something to get compensation for Darnold. Some kind of if it's franchising and trading him, so be it. We'll see what happens. And it also doesn't force other teams to commit long term necessarily, where they have the option to. It's up to them, during the course of the season, because it'd be a single year type of thing. And it's like, okay, we're going to extend Darnold. He's looking great. The Raiders or whoever it is, the San Francisco 49ers. Maybe they do go in that direction. So we'll see what happens there. Sorry for snapping the lips. I know it's annoying. I don't like it either. It's just a weird habit. But the Vikings will not beat the Rams. No, I just have a crappy feeling. And it would really suck to see a 14-3 season be out in the first round. But I think the possibility does exist and persist. Are the Vikings the better team? Yeah. Is it a tough matchup, though? Yes. It's a very tough matchup. Stafford's history against us are just the way we've played in SoFi historically has not been real good. I need to see a completely different Viking team than I saw versus Detroit. I need to see a completely different Viking team than I saw versus the Rams earlier this season. Because if it's anything similar to what it was earlier this year, the Vikings lose. There needs to be a pass rush. You need to get to Stafford. He's not that mobile. He used to be. He's kind of, but he's getting old. He's getting old. He might even be playing his last game, say, if the Rams lose and maybe Stafford's banged up a bit in the game. But zero pass rush, though. Seriously. And I know, you give credit to the offensive line there in Los Angeles, but I don't know. Like, Minnesota, I swear, it just feels like Minnesota teams in, like, New York or L.A. It just feels like loss every damn time. Like big playoff games versus L.A. or New York, it just feels like a loss. Where back in the day, and we're talking there, though, like if it was here, historically the Vikings have beaten the Rams every single time. So back in the old days. But that was way back in the day, though. We're talking old days. So I don't like the Vikings history versus versus playing in Los Angeles. It's been rough. I think the Los St. Louis Rams. I think the Los Angeles Rams win the football game, unfortunately, by a final score of something along the likes of 30-27. It's going to be really, 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 really close. But I feel like it's just not enough. Darnold doesn't have it. And we'll be talking about J.J. McCarthy very heavily in the offseason. And I don't mean just me. I mean other shows that don't suck. I'm not going to say all the other shows out there pretty much suck, because that's rude, frankly. That's pretty douchey, honestly. You have a right to your opinion, but I have a right to call you out, too. I think you're a jackass, the person that said that. So, yeah, just in case you're listening, probably 0% chance because I pretty much suck. So I'm not good enough for you to listen. But just in case. With that said, we'll take a quick break, and there should be an extensive fan interaction, at least on the Twitterverse. All right, hold the phone. I actually, I got so tied up in this whole Minnesota-LA game that I did not do my official predictions for the NFC. So this will be very brief, at least I think so. So yes, I have the Rams advancing past the Vikings just because I just do, unfortunately. I did have Philadelphia beating the Packers. I remember talking about that, and Washington beating Tampa. So that means that Washington would head to Detroit and Tampa would head to Philadelphia at the end of the day. So, yes, Detroit will beat the Washington Commanders. I think the Commanders will make it interesting, but Detroit wins and goes to the NFC title game for the second year in a row, for the first time in franchise history, at least in the days of the NFC. Obviously, back in the 1950s, Detroit won championships before the Super Bowl, of course. Philadelphia will get past the Rams. Philadelphia beats the Rams. The Rams could be one of those exciting teams. You just never know. Maybe the Rams upset Philadelphia. But right now, I think Philadelphia does go to the NFC title game, pardon me. But I think Detroit and Buffalo will be your Super Bowl at the end of the day. Maybe it's the year for the Detroit Lions. I'm not sure. Is it the year for the Bills? Is it the year for the Lions? I'd like to believe it's the year for the Vikings. But I think Detroit and Buffalo is your Super Bowl. And I keep going back and forth on this one. Buffalo Bills end their drought. The Buffalo Bills are the team that ends their drought and wins their first Super Bowl after the. So the Buffalo Bills will beat the Chiefs and the Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl and win their first championship after losing their 4 in a row back in the early 1990s. So Buffalo Bills are going to be your Super Bowl champion, at least according to what I'm saying right now. Obviously, you have a right to change, especially as the things progress. I'll have a right to change, but this is my original prediction, so this is the one that would count as in, oh, I got it all right. This is the one that would count. Otherwise, it's just a week-to-week type of thing afterwards. So I am picking Buffalo to win the Super Bowl. I might have picked the Minnesota Vikings to win the Super Bowl versus the Bills. They got the number 1 seed, but when they came out and showed something like this, I actually have the Rams beating us right now. If the Vikings beat the Rams, of course, then we would have to go to Detroit again, which I think would be another loss anyway. So, yeah, I'm just saying. I'd like to believe otherwise, but it doesn't look good. The matchup is real bad. It would have to be a complete transformation for the Vikings to get to the NFC title game with the way things are currently standing. But, oh, no, if Washington beats Tampa, we would go to Philadelphia, which I think would be kind of a toss-up. Maybe we'd face in the NFC title game then. I forgot. If Washington beats Tampa, yeah, because Washington's going to Detroit. If Washington beats Tampa, but odds are Tampa will win that game with their home field and all that. Home field in football is a really big thing. Big. So we'll see. But with the way I have things set up, Minnesota would go to Philly. I think it would be a toss-up, but probably the Eagles winning because our history versus Philadelphia in the playoffs is 0-4 infinity so far. I think we're 0-4 versus Philadelphia historically. We are 5-2 versus the Rams historically. Tons and tons of matchups. But this particular Rams team is a tough battle. That's why I have it going like that. Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl in New Orleans. I had my initial prediction. And we are back here on Purple Mafia, segment number 3. Time to hop onto the Twitterverse, if humanly possible. Also have the Instagram. I do have it up on the computer, too. And sometimes it's better that way. Or so I hope. The Purple Mafia Show is the Instagram. Any interactions? No, just likes, which is okay. I mean, if you want to comment on there, though, it's very much appreciated. The likes help, too, though. Notice they had one where it was the post game. It was about hoisting up the white flag, which felt like that's what kind of game it was. In so many ways. Yes, I'm looking at the Facebook. Yeah, there's nothing. So I don't know why. I don't know what happened. Don't know what happened to Mark Carlson, Mike Dale, Leland. I don't know what happened to you guys. You guys all vanished. So must have been either busy or just like, what the hell is this? I don't even want to talk about it. Bleepity bleep bleep. Who knows? But kind of was like that. So Twitterverse it is, 1,000% here. Retweets from Mad Martin and Tanae Brown. Mad Martin from Northern Scotland, Tanae Brown from New Zealand. He also was putting likes on Instagram. Tanae has been known to comment on Instagram, and he's 1,000% welcome to do so. Continuing. Mad Martin, Northern Scotland, as mentioned before, says, Happy New Year, Joey. Waiting for this game is turning into an exceptionally long week. And yeah, it really was exceptionally long. No call-ins. Nope. Just wanted to make absolute sure. No. Okay. Email or two, but that's about it. I was saying laughable clock managed by the Steelers, but that's okay with me. Go Bengals. I was saying that on Saturday. Mad Martin said, man, it's been a long day on this side of the pond. Let's get this done. Yeah, because he had to wait basically until like late in the night to even watch the game because it's on the other side of the pond. I was saying I'm nervous, very, very. Mad Martin says, we are playing with house money, my friend. I was a little nervous last week, but I really believe they can secure the number 1 seed. I wish. I believed it too, and then at the end of the day, it just didn't happen, unfortunately. Okay, continuing. Mad Martin said, not the start we hoped for. Time to launch a bomb down the field and answer that 7 points. I'm not really a fan of delayed blitzes against Goff. Yeah. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, you know. Continuing, Matt Martin says, if we want to go to and win the Super Bowl, you must always have to go through a high-scoring shootout. Vikings get this as a warm-up for a playoff run, but they need to answer back in this drive. We can't afford a slow start, and unfortunately the slow start never stopped. It was just slow and frustrating, and it felt like we were in Philadelphia. It really did. Matt Martin was saying, disappointing drive, but outside of Jones, we can't rely on the running game to punch the ball in. We've seen plenty of opportunities in the red zone missed this season. And a lot of ways, that was the Vikings' Achilles heel against Detroit. Because, again, the Vikings' defense was respectable. Even with Jahmyr Gibbs opening the floodgates late, the Detroit Lions only scored 31 points in the game. You know, and I know only, right? For the Detroit Lions, that isn't only. They're the number one offense in the league. They're the St. Louis Rams, you know, of this year. They're the 99 Rams, basically. Or 21, or 2001 Rams, whatever year. We'll see what happens. Excuse me. Mad Martin says, I don't wish to think about that Philadelphia game with a better quarterback and better weapons this time around. So no excuses for not putting points into Detroit's defense that is significantly depleted. That is the number one thing right there. No excuses for not putting points into Detroit's defense that is significantly depleted. 1,000% right there. That sums up the whole game and why they lost. And why I'm ready for McCarthy. Yeah, it's just one game. No, it's the biggest game of his life, and that's how he played. It's the biggest game of his life. Him being Sam Darnold. Continuing, because yes, Mad Martin is kicking some butt here, and we can't rely on this defense to hold them off all night. Exactly, because that's not what happened. They did not hold them off all night. So yep, you nailed it. They did not hold them off all night. Eventually, it fell apart. Man, those are some weird unis, aren't they? I'm sorry. Okay, let's get on with this. I'm distracted. KOC, this is Mad Martin. KOC not trusting the run game at all. Darnold needs to take it down a notch. He's clearly too amped tonight. If he plays a clunker, does that quiet down the debate on sign him at any cost that some are suggesting? Yes, absolutely should. And I've definitely not been saying let's sign him at any cost. I'm guessing, Mad Martin, I'm guessing you're with me on the McCarthy thing? Yeah, yep, it sounds like it. Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like he was. I was saying, I'm ready for a J.J. McCarthy next season. This is me. That is not what I want. This is not what I want to tolerate anymore. 60-plus years is enough. Matt Martin says, I'm with you there, brother. I've had so many arguments with people saying we need to keep Darnold at any price. It'd be a mistake, I think. Darnold's good and everything, but I think he's for a team that wants to win now, like immediately, like free agent signing, like a San Francisco. A team that just might do something. Maybe they'll trade for Kirk Cousins if they don't go for Darnold, like the Rams, who are close to possibly saying goodbye to Stafford. Like a Darnold, I don't think they'd get Kirk Cousins there, but I suppose McVay does have a relationship with Cousins going back to the Redskins, or Redskins, Washington football team, and Commanders, whatever. But obviously not with they weren't the Commanders when Cousins was there. They were still the Redskins. Continuing, Mad Martin says, and the games only get bigger from here. Yep, because it is one and done. You lose, you're out now. Touchdown to start the third is mandatory. This is Mad Martin. Lions offense cannot be bottled up forever. And KOC needs to calm Darnold. If he cannot handle the situation, it will be a short playoff run. And I'm afraid it possibly could be. I think there's some responses. Yep, okay, yep, looks like. Mad Martin saying you can't get inside the 5-yard line 3 times and come out with 3 points. That's totally unacceptable. I have to wonder, has the clock struck midnight for Darnold? And I was saying, I think it has. Yep, I think the clock did strike midnight for Darnold. It sure felt like it. Dave Hickey joins the conversation out of Iowa, says, I agree. That was a safety all day. We got screwed again. Yep, the safety that should have been called on Goff, and it wasn't. That could have been a turning point in the game, possibly. Could have been. Like, Goff was struggling, boy. Goff was struggling. Yeah. Dave Hickey says, Darnold is throwing high. He better tune that thing in, because high usually means interceptions. Yep. Like low rarely does. That just means like incomplete. But high, yeah, that can definitely lead to interceptions. Dave Hickey says, big leg Bill better not cost us a game or a playoff victory. Yep, he's afraid after that missed kick. That was a pretty ugly one. He sliced it. If you're a golfer, which I'm not, he sliced it. Maybe I'll be a golfer someday, but you'd think I would have taken it on by now. I'm 45. I'd be a pretty late bloomer, I think. Van Martin says you can't get inside the 5-yard line. Yeah, 3 times and wind up at 3 lousy points. Yeah, it's total crap. Next one, Mad Martin says need to just go deep, punch it in from the 50-yard line because they can't punch it in from the red zone. Yep, and then all the time, yeah, there'd be this great chunk play that would happen, but they'd always get tackled, and then we'd be stuck in the red zone, and nothing would happen. It'd be a complete joke. Like you get a sack, incomplete passes. Detroit was playing so tight the whole bleeping game. It was definitely the best game of the year for their defense. Like it's not even close. Like they look like a Detroit team that had an incredible defense, which they don't. Dave Hickey continues saying you got to trust Sam. Trust in Sam. He's just got to tune it in. O-linemen are playing like bleep. Yeah, and they were. The guards especially were lousy. Lousy game. Did I mention we need some guards? Yes, Gerald, we do need guards. Oh, I want to hear that soundbite again. Please, Gerald, next time you call, put that in, will you? Huh, Rex Ryan is going to possibly interview for the New York Jets. He's on one of the lists. Rex Ryan. Huh. Yep, Rex Ryan on Tuesday. They're going to interview Rex Ryan again, huh? Boy, the Jets are kind of desperate. I don't think Rex Ryan is bad. It's kind of desperate. He was your coach already before. They had some success. It didn't last real long. So, I don't know. I think Rex Ryan's more of a shelf life kind of guy, unfortunately. When he's good, he's good. Yeah, he's probably a better, commentator at this stage of his career than a head coach. But I don't know. Anyhow, let's keep going. Dave Hickey says it's going to be hard to move on from Sam, but they set themselves up for it with the signing of Daniel Jones and J.J. McCarthy. I'm just enjoying the ride and hope it's our turn. Totally feel ya. I think I responded. I was saying they absolutely have to move on from Sam Darnold. Yep. Now we know for sure. That's the one good thing about tonight. We have an answer. He cannot perform in the big games. J.J. McCarthy proved that he could, at least in college. Yep, he won the national championship. Yep. Mad Martin was replying to something I had said, like I was like blankety blank, something. I was flipping out. I was saying lame. I'm tired of Gibbs. Yep. Because he's just running right through us. Mad Martin says, you just can't stop Detroit forever. Yep. The offense has to get into the end zone. And not just once. Is a change at quarterback needed? Mullins' time. I was saying, whoa. No, yeah, but maybe he would have been better. Who knows? Probably more interceptions. But that's okay at that point. It was like nothing else you could do. I feel like it feels like it's just falling away. Mad Martin was saying defense can't get off the field. They put the offense in good positions, and they've done nothing with it. That was the story of the game. The defense put the offense in good positions, and they did nothing with it. Incredibly disappointing performance. I'm off to bed. And I totally feel you, Mad Martin, because it was like 4 in the morning. Yeah, poor guy. I feel bad. I was saying we waited all day for this, and guess what? We get to work tomorrow. How exciting. Life sucks. Yeah, just that feeling of having to go to work on Monday. Ugh. I don't think anybody likes it. So when people say Happy Monday, you just want to give them the finger. People tell you Happy Monday at work, just give them an imaginary finger for me. Because, that's how I feel about that Happy Monday talk. It's so condescending. It is. Oh, they're just being No, they're condescending. I was saying I'm sorry for that. I can't even imagine the frustration. Ben Martin says, not your fault. Don't need to apologize for our offense totally shitting the bed tonight. Yep. Couple more. Dave Hickey was saying, we are just a fingertip away from like 6 plays, including another Van Ginkel pick 6. I freaking hate Chris Collinsworth. Yeah, I had the sound off the whole game. Because, I don't like Chris Collinsworth. He hates the Vikings. I had it off the whole game. It's classic Sunday night BS, too, by the way. What else was going on? And I was listening to I often listen to just PA and Bursich. It's more fun. I love Bursich's reactions like, come on! Like, it's so fun to listen to. He gets mad, and it's fun to, James Wright, what was he responding to? I was saying this Detroit defense has been grabbing and playing chippy the entire game. It's an absolute joke. It should have been more penalties on Detroit. I'm not sure what James Wright's point here is. Come on, wow. What was he, making fun of me or something? I don't know. Maybe. He might have been making fun of me. I have no idea. he wrote that game over. Sam Darnold should be arrested for fraud. He is following me, so, and I think he's a Viking fan. I hope he wasn't making fun of me there, but it's possible. Nah, he's a Viking fan. Come on, wow. Was he making fun of me? Who knows? Who knows what a terrible fan you are, James Wright. Maybe he's making fun of the situation. Yeah. He was saying what a terrible fan you are, and I said, yeah, I'm just horrible. I feel zero remorse. This is an absolute joke of a game. I have every right to be pissed off like any fan and feeling let down. Sure, but I expected a loss. James Wright responds with, sure, but I expected a loss. I guess that's the difference. I don't know. Sounds, I don't know what to say about that, but I guess so. I mean, if you expect a loss, that's fine. I guess so. Dave Hickey was saying, what was he saying there? Yep, I was saying it looks like we're not even going to get to the second round. Dave Hickey says, don't be so sure, my friend. Anyone could have guessed that this game was going to go this way, but let's get the stinker out of the way now and not in the playoffs. Well, I mean, I hope so, that maybe that was the end of it. So we'll see. That was like a way to, you end the winning streak now instead of like, later. Dave Hickey was saying we can avenge all sorts of demons in the playoffs, beat the Rams first, then the Eagles, then Detroit. As long as that a-hole Chris Collinsworth doesn't call any of them, that'd be nice. That would be. And, yep, the ultimate here. And to finish off the Chiefs in the Super Bowl where the curse started. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Skull, if it is meant to be a miracle season, we need to run the gauntlet to exercise the demons of the past and finally win. Yeah, because that'd be all of them, wouldn't it? Like the Rams have been kind of a tough matchup for us for a while. The Eagles, holy crap. Detroit. So, yeah, I think we'd have to beat Detroit first because we'd probably have the lower seed of the other teams. We'd wind up with Detroit in the divisional round, and then possibly Philadelphia in the NFC title game. Sorry, and then hopefully beat the Chiefs. I think we're at the end here. Dirk Kirk 18. Dirk Kirk. So, yeah. He was saying, at least you ain't a Jets fan. Yeah, because he's a Jets fan, apparently. I was saying, I understand. At the very least, you have the absolute best helmets in the NFL, if not the best uniforms. I'm not just saying that to be condescending. I do love the uniforms and helmets. Dirk Kirk responds with, the green is pretty fire. I actually really like the purple Vikings color along with the logo. Looks good. Good luck in the playoffs there, brother. Yep, thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate you, Dirk Kirk, and sorry I didn't respond. Shoot, I was like, yeah, because I was getting ready to do the show. Sorry I didn't reply sooner. I appreciate you, brother. Great. Both of our teams have great helmets. No doubt. Things work out. Playoffs. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. And yeah, I said brother, not bro. I'm not a fan of bro. I don't know what it is, but bro bugs me. So, yep, hope you give me a follow back. I actually gave him a follow. So, yeah, thank you for that. And yes, that's it. That will wrap things up. For the fan interaction segment. Pretty busy, but fun. Loved hearing from people. I actually didn't hear from Tanae. That's a bummer. But, yep, I'm sure he'd have a lot to say. And if Tanae, you're more than welcome to comment on it at any time. You'd think he'd have a lot to say, but maybe he just was like, forget it. Just maybe he's too upset. Maybe Mark Carlson, Mike Dale, all of them were just like, forget it. Bleep this. That might have been the thought process there. And if it is, I understand. I understand totally. So with that said, and for the sake of time, wishing all of you a wonderful week, and hopefully the Vikings do recover. Hopefully Sam Darnold does prove me wrong. But I do want to stick to the plan of J.J. McCarthy. Long term, yes. Even if Darnold is back for a single season maybe or something. So we'll see what happens. we'll see what happens at the end of the day. We'll see what happens with Brian Flores. If the Vikings lose Brian Flores. But we don't have to talk about that just yet. The season is not over yet. The Vikings very well could win versus the Rams. I only have the Rams beating the Vikings by 3, which could easily go the other direction. So I'm hoping it does. I hope it does. I hope the dream isn't over, like that '80s song. So we'll see what happens at the end of the day. If you want to interact with the show, there's all different routes you can go about that. Of course, the Twitter, the X, Purple Mafia Show. The Instagram, Purple Mafia Show. Facebook page is Purple Mafia Show, Minnesota Vikings Show, or whatever. You can look that up on Facebook. And if you can't find it, you can always private message me, and I will send you a link one way or another if you want to join the Facebook page. Obviously, the X. And then the TikTok, paladino.live. There is no, I'm unable to have a straight Paladino Live, so it will stay paladino.live. I have no choice. So I thought that option was there, but it's not. Somebody else might have taken it a long time ago, or maybe I did, with a different account accidentally. I have no idea. Wouldn't surprise me if I did, actually. It's my own account, maybe, but I closed it, I thought, but then came back like a goofball because I figured, hey, I could put all my podcasts on there, and that's what I do. So everything's on that one. There's the YouTube, of course, which is also Paladino Live Productions. If you want to look that up, all the links are in the show description. If you want to join any of that, really appreciate you so much. If you want to call in, of course, just pick up your smart device. Use any free voice recording app that they have on there. You could on the store or one that's already built in. Basically, press record, treat it like a phone call or whatever, and when you're done, save it and share it to paladinolive@yahoo.com. paladinolive@yahoo.com. I would then convert it into an MP3 file thanks to not Zumzar, but cloudconvert.com. Cloudconvert.com. Really wonderful page. So please put a positive rating on Apple Podcasts if you could. 5-star rating. Spotify or any other app that allows you to do so. It'd be greatly appreciated at the end of the day. Greatly appreciated. Okay, so yep. Yeah, Doug Peterson was fired. That's what I thought. Must have been a while back. Yeah, the Bears and all them. Ken Dorsey. Sorry. So with all of that said, I just appreciate every one of you so much, and we'll be back to continue, and we will continue to cover the postseason as we always do here on Purple Mafia, because playoff football is the absolute best. That's where January rocks. Like, you might think, oh, it's cold. Yeah, but it's playoff football, though. Is there anything better than playoff football? It's something to absolutely look forward to as you head into Saturdays and Sundays. In this case, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Super Wild Card Weekend. The Vikings and Rams will be on Monday Night Football. So that show won't even come out until Tuesday morning, most likely. Well, it just won't. So otherwise, take care. God bless, and we will talk to you in a week.